Welcome to Dead Man Talking. Tonight's show is a brand new story from a great friend of mine by the name of SmokeyBeardman. As ever, please do let me know down below in the comments what you thought. Please do like and share and help build this channel and our community further and help us smash through the 30,000 subscriber mark. Without further ado, let's get into tonight's story entitled The Naturals, the Street Fighter. Let's get straight into that. "I'll kill you," yelled the angry bar patron as he put his fists up and took a step towards me. He was pissed to the point that his face was the colour of a brick wall. Thinking to myself, she was the one who flirted with me, but oh well. I tried to tell him I have no interest in his 200-pound gorilla of a girlfriend, but he wasn't listening. Alcohol robs you of your good senses sometimes. He swung back, ready in his haymaker, and let it fly. And to me, it seemed to be moving in slow motion. I moved to the side easy enough and ducked the second wild fist as he thrust it forward. He stumbled and fell to his knees. Again, I tried to explain that she was the one flirting and I wasn't interested, and that his anger was misplaced. He drew himself up as well as he could, and then charged at me. And with one swift movement that a matador would be proud of, I sidestepped him, and this time I pushed him forward. This unexpected added momentum sent him right into the cop car that had just pulled up. This time he struggled to regain his footing. The officer got out of his car and attempted to subdue the drunken fool, but the fool was quick and was able to land a punch to the officer's jaw. You could see the lights go out instantly. The other officer, who got out, was trying to assist his colleague and made a similar assault. Now I had two unconscious cops and a still upset drunk, who must have been a boxer to use moves like that. Kinda confusing considering his starting attempts to take my head. Not seeming to care about the cops, he turned to me, this time in full stance, fists up and feet moving deftly, if not a little slow of his drunken stumble. He could move. This time he danced up to me and threw 1, 2 punches and an uppercut and a volley of jabs. All of these were dodged or blocked with ease as he made an attempt to actually do damage. I grabbed my bandana from the back pocket. I timed it to have the most effect, and when my moment came, I threw the piece of cloth up in front of his face. This stunned him for a second, and that's all I needed. I ducked down under his midsection to avoid any oncoming punches, almost dropping to my knees and threw a punch straight into his midsection. This knocked the wind out of him. As I came up, I threw an uppercut and caught him square on the jaw, lifting him off the ground about a foot. As his feet got reacquainted with the ground, his body decided to join the party, and hard. He landed like a sack of potatoes, and that was it. His girlfriend, or whatever she was to him, screamed and ran to his side. She cried and cussed me out in Spanish as I walked away. You see, ever since I was a kid, I've never lost a fight. Not one. Even my alcoholic father learned not to hit me after I found the courage to stand up to him. I joined the army right out of high school because a buddy of mine wanted to join up, saying it would toughen him up. We had met in school. I'd saved him from a great school bully, and this was the second time I'd got expelled. My buddy had always been grateful. I went through training, saw action, and lost my buddy. My reputation for fighting came from when, in a fit of rage, I ran into a house we knew had terrorists and weapons being hid there. I don't really remember what happened, but by the time my comrades were able to get there, I was covered in blood and surrounded by dead, dying or severely injured men. The count was 7, and as it turned out, none of the blood was mine. This was all years ago. Now I walked away from the drunk on the ground. I was finishing off my beer when a man wearing a suit stopped me. Behind him was an army officer who outranked me, but had the badges I didn't recognise. "Andrews Tyler," said the suit. "Yeah, who's asking and why?" "Mr. Andrews, I'm here to invite you to involve yourself in a military operation. One that would not only serve your country, but also pay very well due to the danger involved. As for me, I'm Agent Costus. I can't reveal what agency I work for, but believe me, this is legit. Why not get one of the Black Ops or SEALs to do it? Why me? Because, Mr. Andrews, your particular talents have caught our attention, and your talents are exactly what we need. Normally this would be an order, but due to the fact that you very well could die, it is given as a request. You have been cleared of any other duties if you accept, and would join a team of specialists if you complete the mission. You'd be working alone this time, and as I mentioned, compensated. If you die, we would still pay and give the earnings to whomever you would have left it to. Sir, you talk a lot. If I die, leave the money to my brother. Let's go. You're wasting my time. I've got nothing else to do and I like money. Enough said. I left with the man and he took me to an airfield where the plane was waiting. On the ride over, the agent told me that my belongings would be on the plane and we were to leave immediately. All things considered, I was just glad to have something to do other than drink. I had no time for other people's crap. Losing my friend turned me from the world. I couldn't save him. It filled me with rage. If you haven't put two and two together yet, he's the reason I ran into that place and beat the life out of anyone I could find. Back to the story. I got on the plane and finally got briefed on why and what I was needed for. Mr. Andrews, please just call me Ty. Mr. Andrews died inside a bottle years ago. As you wish, we have a situation. There is a tribe in Africa that has access to a mineral, a very rare mineral, one so unique that it can't be found anywhere else other than on their lands. And the problem is, it's located on their holy lands. They have granted us the mineral with one condition. There is to be absolutely no weapons brought onto their lands. They fear a creature or demon will be unleashed with the opportunity for violence. We had intended to comply when one of the soldiers had smuggled in a pocket knife. We had only been at the site for a week when all hell broke loose. We had lost contact after a barrage of maydays and SOSs. When we contacted the tribe, they said we had to deal with it on our own. They refused to anger the thing any more than they had. They are afraid that it will destroy them. Okay, well, let me stop you right there. You don't expect me to believe that there is a demon killing people, do you? Honestly, we have no idea what it is. We can't send in the troops due to the tribe's rules. They forgave us on the promise that we would deal with the disturbance ourselves. No weapons. No soldier is willing to face the risk, and no one has your particular talents for hand-to-hand violence. You are our best and probably only hope, other than ignoring the tribe and ultimately destroying them ourselves. Fine, I'll do it. What's the pay? $500,000. You're joking. I assure you, I have no sense of humour. Why so much? Because we are losing that much each day that the mining is halted. We would rather pay you than lose another day. It is worth the expense to the army. The rest of the trip flew by. By the time we landed, I was recovered from my hangover and was immediately rushed to my tent. There I dressed in my fatigues, leaving behind anything that might be considered a weapon. I made my way to the command tent and was greeted by the agent Costus. Where to now? Over there. He pointed to the tree line about 100 meters away. Why so far? Well, we're not sure what a safe distance is. From here we can see anything before it gets to us, and this is also as close as we are allowed to get with weapons. You may approach at your leisure. We will give you a radio, but reception is sketchy the closer you get to the mine. The mineral we are after interferes with the signal. It is the mine that you will be clearing. We can't tell you what to expect other than over 50 people died and only a couple got out, but have been traumatized to the point that they can barely speak, and of much what they say sounds like nonsense. From what we can gather, it is just one being. It doesn't look like human, and it's strong and is fast, but that's all. If you want to back out now is your chance. I don't believe in ghost schools and other nasty bumps in the night things. I'll be fine. More than likely it's a tribe member, hallucinogenics. If they can't bring weapons, then I have nothing to worry about. Without another word, I walked out of the tent and made my way to the jungle. It was hot and miserable, but I was fine. I had a bottle of water and an MRE and nothing to lose. Even if I die, my brother will get to go to college and have a great start to his life. And if I live, he still goes to college and we both get a great start. I couldn't help but chuckle at this thought. I didn't have to go far to go find the mine. 5 minutes into the bush and I found the entrance. What I saw was only to be described as a horror show. Bodies, or rather parts of bodies, were everywhere. Heads were stripped of skin, and flesh and were mounted on crudely fashioned pikes at the entrance of the mine. Arms hung from wires at the mouth of the mine, and legs were strewn about like confetti. If I was a weaker man, I would have thrown up again, but kept my composure. I passed the gore and entered the mine. The top level was more office than mine and was easy to be cleared. Blood was splashed randomly around most of it. Most of it was on the floor in the form of drag marks. I made my way to the elevator and noticed a man-sized hole in the middle of the metal floor. Well, this gave me pause. What the f... At this point I was interrupted by a loud sound, and it was the sound of rocks falling and the moaning far below. I thought to myself that someone might still be alive. I was about to call out when I heard a high-pitched scream and then something slam against the wall, and the screaming stopped abruptly. I admit my heart started beating fast, and if I hadn't known better, I would swear that it was audible. Swallowing my fear, which took a minute, I stepped inside the carriage and closed the door. I had already started the generator, so when I threw the lever, it kicked and started the descent. It took only about a minute to reach the bottom, but as I went down I saw claw marks and more blood all along the walls, and when I touched down I opened the gates and stepped into the corridor. Remember when I said something about a weaker man? The sight in front of me was the turning point. Bodies, in varying states of mutilation, were positioned everywhere. They were arranged in horrid, grotesque poses. Some were posed in a scene of mid-murder, another in coitus mid-murder, another posed like a cannibal at dinner, many other poses that I couldn't even describe, or my mind refuses to comprehend what I was seeing in totally. Needless to say, I lost my composure and my lunch, or what little I had of it. Just to my right, there was a fresh body, still dripping blood, and he was firmly splattered against the wall. After regaining myself, and after the room stopped spinning, I made my way further. I noticed that the lights were flickering sporadically. Great, just great. Flicking on my flashlight in the darkest spot, I made my way further. Every so often, I would see another body. Probably not good modelling material, is all I could think, to keep my spirits up. I would see eyes randomly placed along the walls, and every now and then I would see entrails wrapped around cables, cords and fixtures, like some morbid prom. About 5 minutes into the main hall, I started to hear the whispers. I couldn't make out what they said, but they were random. There 1 minute, gone the next, and then there was the cold wind that emanated from deep inside. Vent holes. It has to be. All of my time in the army I've only known myself to be scared a few times. This was the worst. I would randomly be plunged into absolute darkness, and then the wind would blow and followed by the whispers. The lights would flicker back on, and the wind would stop instantly, and the whispering would continue. I was wandering around for what felt like an hour before I heard growling, soft at first, and then it stopped. I would hear the loud sniffing and shuffling from one corridor and then another, seemingly at random, and then all noise stopped without any warning. You could hear a pin drop. I dared not breathe. I must have held my breath for a full minute, because when I finally inhaled, it was deep and urgent. Still nothing except my head pounding from lack of oxygen. Now I was seeing weird marks on the walls. It was like some strange language, written in blood. Some figures I recognised, others I didn't. Like words were being written using different parts of other languages, like trying to write a word using Russian, Japanese and hieroglyphics. I wish I had words to explain it, but it was beyond understanding to me. After another couple of minutes of travel, I came across a crude bowl fashioned from a human skull. Inside was a concoction of blood, feces and other bodily fluids that I can't recognise. I was at a complete loss for the carnage I had cockily walked into. To describe the horrified awe, the vile confusion that ran rampant in my head in this journey would take a literature scholar more than words that I know to do justice, if the words even exist. Finally, I reached a fork that teed left and right. Pulling out the map to decide where to go next, I saw that both were about the same. Both circled around and back like a giant W. I took out a coin and tossed it. Heads right, tails left. Heads right, onwards, brave soldier. My self-encouragement did little to steady me, but my courage was coming back. I hadn't made it more than 50 feet down the right corridor when from behind me I heard a loud sniffing and scraping. I turned just as the lights flickered out. "Oh God, no!" I whispered to myself as I fumbled with my flashlight. I never got the chance to turn it on when the lights came back on. There, right in front of me, was something on all fours. It was sniffing the ground. How could it smell anything over the stench of rotting corpses is beyond me, but it seemed to be following my trail. The thing, it was striped like a zebra, but instead of black and white, it was black and vibrant red. It had a tail about as long as its legs. Its head had no eyes that I could see, and no ears. It had a canine-like head, like a Doberman. As I took in what I was seeing, it must have noticed me, because it stood up on its hind legs, and now I got the full view of it. It had to be at least 6'5". Its arms were so long the claws, yes claws, reached the floor. Each claw ended in a sharp pointed talon. Its teeth were jagged and dripping in an unknown liquid. It was scrawny but muscular. It had a mane like a horse's running down its back, which matted gore. I took in my surroundings. Wide, hall-tall ceilings, loose dirt floors and muddy with blood and bile. This wouldn't be pleasant. There was nothing I could use as a weapon, but that was probably for the best. If weapons brought this thing here, I wouldn't want to summon another. It noticed me and it made a move to come at me. It was so quick I almost didn't have time to move. I dodged to the side as it swung a lethal claw when my throat had been a fraction of a second before. I rolled with my evasion and came back to the stance and readied to a counter position. I almost didn't have time before I saw the second attack. I ducked and I landed a blow just below the centre of its ribs. I felt a popping and a snap as the creature staggered away, regaining itself. It lunged at me again. I sidestepped and tried to force it forward, like with the drunk, but it seemed to read this and threw itself sideways, barreling into me and knocking me into the wall. I coughed and spluttered as we both climbed to our feet. I saw a grin appear on the sides of its maw. It was enjoying this. It went for me again, and I threw a kick as quick as I could, catching it in the neck, clotheslining it. I didn't come out unscathed though. As it went down, it took the opportunity to slice my leg, not too deep, but enough that the pain was unavoidable if I were to put pressure on it. Not that I had a choice in the matter. It took a second to get up this time, and I took a chance, and I jumped on top of it. Crazy, I know, but I wasn't thinking rationally. My body was moving on its own and with little thought on my end. I got on top and started mindlessly driving my fist into whatever piece of its head I could get at. With each successful punch, it screeched and bellowed. Its blood was a mix of black and bright, almost neon green. Its nose and mouth were gushing. Then I felt something wrap around my neck and fling me across the hall like a rag doll. Its tail was not just that for balance. We both stood slowly, both breathing hard and ragged, both bleeding heavily. And this is when it laughed. The smile came back. It threw its head back and then gutturally laughed, like it had told the funniest joke ever in the history of the world. I stood dumbfounded. Slowly the laughing died away, and it turned its head in my direction, unseeingly, and then it walked slowly towards me. I readied myself for the next round, and it came within 5 feet of me and spat a glob of its own blood at my feet, tilting its head from side to side, one to the other, cracking its neck. To be honest, if it wasn't a fight to the death, I probably would have been enjoying this. It made the next move, thrusting its claw at my face, and I barely had time to react. But react I did. My body no longer listening to what I thought we should do. I swung myself onto its arm and in a mid-air armbar. I didn't have time to react before I fully extended myself and heard not one but 3 snaps, loud and crisp. I dropped quickly and rolled away as it reacted to this new form of pain. It howled and roared and screamed, and was that crying? I was moving around it looking for an opening that I could risk, but was stopped by the sound of sobbing coming from this violent and worthy foe. I took a stance and readied another counter. It stood to its full height and held its now mangled arm, the sobbing dying away with every breath. It unleashed a kick while my guard was dropped. I flew against the wall and heard it before I felt it, my shin snapping in two and my shoulder dislocating. It just stood there growling and breathing heavily, not even turning its head towards me. Not that it could see me anyways. I popped my arm back into place and stood shakily, balancing on one foot. I was stumped. What to do now? I'm broken and running out of options. So I stalled to buy time to think. Hey! What the hell am I doing? Oh well, nothing ventured, nothing gained. What are you? Friend? At this time the growling stopped. Then, what seemed like a chuckle came from this thing. Friend, it says. What is this? It asks. Should it tell it? It wonders. The voice was like sand being poured from a bag, like a whisper, like someone who had lost their voice and speaking as if him and I were things instead of individuals. Yes, I would like to know the name of such a worthy foe. Then came the hissing laugh, and it shook its head. Why does it matter what this is? The reason for its being is all that matters. The blood of the world craves its creation. Death rolls from the sea and covers the land. She offered here still bones to the killers. They did not disappoint, but they shall not bring their reason for being unto her bosom. They may suckle freely, but not fulfill their cause on her sacred breast. It hates and devours and deceives and produces more to do more. Blood is the cost of its life, and it will suffer for any transgression. Soon life will come to the killers, and they will be done with themselves. That is what this is, and that is what it is. And this is the end of it. As it finished saying the riddle, it charged in low, looking to strike with its only usable claw at my heart. I threw myself slightly to the side, wrapping my arm around its neck as it passed, yanking back and twisting. I heard more snapping, and the thing went still. It dropped to the ground in a heap. I was down on all fours, heavy breathing, and just staring at the thing, now lifeless. When it didn't move, I crawled towards it and poked it with a finger. Nothing. I rolled onto my back and sighed, and then chuckled. And then I straight out laughed. I laughed till I cried. I had survived. The way out was hard. I found a 2x4 that was long enough to be used as a makeshift crutch and hobbled to the entrance. As the elevator made its way up the shaft, I wondered if they actually expected me to come out alive. I reached the top, went out of the mine, taking my sweet time as I did. Outside around the entrance was, for all I knew, the tribe. They stood around and stared at me, and then the one wearing the most elaborate outfit among them came up to my side, laid a hand on my shoulder and nodded. At that, they cheered and picked me up. I was so tired and weak I didn't fight them. They carried me to the tent where the army had set up camp and laid me into the medical tent. I went straight to sleep the moment my head hit the pillow. When I came to, I was in a helicopter, flying over God knows where. Next to me was Agent Costus. Finally awake, I see. Where are we? Where are we? What happened? Calm down. We're back in the States. I'm taking you to your new base of operations. We call it Camp Natural. Not flashy, but it's home. As for what happened, well, the tribe brought you back from the mine. Told us they felt the spirit lift and came to make sure. When they saw you come out alive, they were impressed that it was only you. And to them, you are the son of a great earth spirit, and they will honour you forever. Well, that's how it translates roughly. What was that thing I fought down there? Now you see, that's the strange thing. We didn't find anything other than a horror show. Human corpses, strange markings. Everyone that went down there vomited and some passed out. But there was no trace of whatever did all of this to you. As for you, you will be laid up for a while. Broken bones, sprains, and a few dislocated joints. You're a mess, son. But we have specialists that will have you at 100% in no time. Rest up, 'cause you never know when we might have to have your talents again. I would like to have some time to relax after all this. I think I earned it. Oh, and what about the money? Wired to a private account in your name. High security. Bioscan required. We spare no expense for the naturals. The naturals? Huh. You didn't think you were the only one born with unmatchable abilities, did you? I laughed at this, and then settled down in the cot, wondering what I'd got myself into. I look forward to it, sir. Wow. Awesome stuff, SmokeyBeardman. Thank you ever so much for getting that over to me a couple of weeks back now, I think. As ever, guys and girls, please do let us know down below in the comments what you thought. I know I would like to see a series from this. Fantastic setup, great character. As ever though, I hope you're all well and happy and enjoying your weekend. And above all, remember, be safe, not sorry.